YouTube, what's up, guys? Hope you guys are all doing well. Freaking allergies, man. Sucks. I hate spring. This is the only reason I hate spring. It's because freaking allergies. But other than that, the one thing that I do love about spring is poker rooms are open. That was corny, but yeah, we're headed to the Seminole Casino Coconut Creek here in a little bit. Just gonna play some 2-5. I've been firing a crap ton of tourneys lately, and they've all been going pretty poorly. So hopefully we can make some of that money back tonight in the cash game. And even if we don't, hopefully we can get some good hands for you guys. So hope you guys enjoy this one. If you haven't already, guys, it'd mean the world if you guys subscribe down below and hit that thumbs up button. We're almost at 10K, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I greatly appreciate it, guys. Hope you guys enjoy this one, and let's get down to the film. It's probably not doing its justice, but it is so nice out here right now. So I was at the Hard Rock the other day, and long story short is I got quads. But I don't know if you guys have high hand promos at your local casino, but at the Hard Rock they do, and I believe it was like $1,000. So long story short is I had quad nines in the middle of a hand. And the current high hand period, there was quad kings up there, so my quad nines wouldn't have qualified. But there was only 2 minutes and 45 seconds left of that period until the next period starts, and quad nines would have qualified. Therefore, I would have had to like tank and been super passive for 2 minutes and 45 seconds. And for those who do not play poker all that often, that's a long freaking time. So let me know what you guys would have done. Is there any like set amount of money that you guys would be willing to tank for? Or like, you know, what would you guys have done? But I ended up just fast playing it. I didn't want to be that guy, even though in hindsight, it's kind of like you're at a casino to make money. You know, I fast played it, which I think I regret because it would have held for the next high hand period. But it is what it is. Anyways, guys, enough rambling. Let's get in there and hopefully win. Same as usual, we're in the 2-5 game for $1,000. This video is a bit shorter, but don't get me wrong, it is still action-packed. First hand, we looked on an ace-king offsuit, and there's 2 limps, but I thought there was only 1 limp. I make it 25, which is definitely a bit small. Nonetheless, though, we see a call from a player in late position, and then both the limpers decide to make the call as well. So definitely not ideal, but this was definitely a mistake on my part. I thought that the limper was the big blind and just simply did not see the other caller. So we're going to be going 4 ways to a flop with still a pretty good hand. The flop is king 6-8 rainbow. So we go ahead and flop top pair. When action checks to me, pretty standard. I just put out a half pot bet, and unfortunately, they all let their cards go one by one. In this next hand, we have 8-9 of diamonds in the hijack, one of my favorite hands to play. There's a button straddle, and the player in the low jack decides to call the $10. I think we have a pretty easy raise on our part. I make it 50. The button now makes the call, and the limper releases his card. So we're going to be going heads up to a flop, and we each have a little bit over $1,000 in our stack. So the flop is really good with a whole lot of nothing. We still have 9 high, but a pretty good 9 high. The flop comes out jack 7-4 with 2 diamonds. So we have a gut shot, straight draw, and a flush draw. This is a board that, even though we do have a pretty good hand, it's going to be better for him. I think starting off with a small bet is ideal. I throw out $35, and he does decide to make the call. So we're off to see a turn, which is gin. The turn is a 10 of clubs. So now we are sitting here with these stone cold nuts. We cannot lose this hand at the moment. Obviously, for our exact hand, this is a really good card. But even like the dynamics of the board, this should still be a really good card, because if he had a jack, he's probably not going to fold to another bet. And the 10 could have very well gave him 2 pair with a hand such as jack 10. If he has king, queen of diamonds, hands of that nature, I don't think he's going to fold regardless. So I think a big bet now is in order. I throw out $150, almost betting the pot, and he really doesn't think for too long and does decide to make the call. So when he calls a big bet on the turn, I can narrow his range to pretty good hands such as top pair, good kicker, or some pretty insane draws such as like king, queen of diamonds, etc. So now we're off to see a river, praying that it's a brick. And luckily for us, it is a 5 of hearts, literally the cleanest, most ideal card in the entire deck. Still sitting here with these stone cold nuts, I am the effective stack and I have around $810 in it. So that being said, what bet sizing should I choose here? And personally, I think the bet sizing is all in for a massive overbet. So that's exactly what I do. I go all in for $810. The reason that I do like this bet is because we unblock all of the really strong hands, such as, again, top pair, top kicker, maybe some 2 pairs. I doubt he has sets, but regardless, if he has any sort of draw that bricked out, he's not going to call a bet. So why not just go for it all? After putting in $810, it looks like he is more inclined to call than fold, which is great news. Obviously, I am praying for a call because we cannot lose this hand. And after thinking for around 2 minutes, he does decide to make the call. Obviously, we're good. We table it, and he goes ahead and mucks. Wow. I don't think I've ever 2.5x the pot before, but let me just say that probably won't be the last time as well. In this next hand, we see a low jack open to $30. The hijack decides to fold. We go ahead and look down at ace-9 of spades in the cutoff. We could be folding here, but I think a raise here is better. I decide to make it 100. The big blind now decides to make the call. Wow, okay. So that is kind of odd, but not too worried at the moment. And then the low jack decides to get it out of the way. Okay, not the pre-flop dynamic I was expecting, but regardless, at least we're playing this flop in a position. So now we're off to see a flop which is pretty dusty. The flop is 10-3-4 with 2 hearts. Definitely not good. I expect him to have a lot of pairs here. So when he checks it to me, I just bet a small sizing of 50. We do have some backdoor draws and an overcard, and he does make the call. Probably not going to be putting much more money in this pot unless the turn is pretty good. The turn comes another 10. He checks over to me, and on a card like this, if he has any sort of pair such as like 6s through 9s, he's just not really going to be inclined to fold, making it more unlikely that I have a 10. So I'm just going to check it back and hopefully improve on the river. The river now is a queen of diamonds. He checks it over to me once again, and sure, this card could be much better for me than it is for him, but against a player that I play with often, and he knows that I know that this is a good card for me, I think I'm just going to give up on this one. I check it back, and yeah, he shows pocket 6s, so definitely a hand that I was expecting, but just a bit unfortunate that we didn't hit a good flop. In this next hand, we are under the gun, open up the action to 20. We look down at a pretty one, ace, queen of spades. Yeah, we get 4 calls, not ideal. Hopefully we can hit something. We're off to see a flop where we flop a flush draw and 2 overs. The flop is 4-3-7 with 2 spades. When action checks to me, on a board like this, I don't really care to put that much money in the pot. A lot of people can have sets, 2 pairs, pair, and straight draws that will probably not fold to a bet. So I'm just going to check this one and hope to see a free turn. But the +1 player bets out $75. It folds back around to me. I look over at his stack and he is a little bit over 400 behind. So sure, I could jam it all in right now and just realize my equity going all in, but I think I'm happy to just make this call and see a turn because I don't think he's ever bluffing considering he's betting into like 4 or 5 other people. So that's what I do. I just make the call and we're obviously a turn where we get there immediately. It is a 5 of spades. I'm just going to check this one in flow. I could lead sometimes, but luckily for us, he does continue to bet. He bets $100. At this point, he has a little bit under 300 or around 300 behind. So being out of position, I think we only have one real move here. I just put them all in. But unfortunately, he doesn't think for too long and folds. Regardless, happy to win a pretty good pot with a really strong hand. Up around $1,200 from the session so far, we go ahead and put on the button straddle with 2 9s. There's 2 limps to me, and I bump it up to 50, and they both decide to make the call. So hopefully we can hit a 9 on the flop or a bunch of low cards, but the flop does come out king high. King deuce for rainbow is a extremely dry board. When it checks to me, there's no real draws on this board besides maybe like some wheel aces. So I'm not really getting expected to get called by worse. So I just decide to check it back. And now we see another king on the board and it completes the full rainbow. When it checks to me once again, I expect a lot of kings to be betting now. So I think I'm just going to target some lower pairs such as a deuce, a 4, 5, 6, 7s, 8s. Hopefully not 10s or jacks. The wager I choose on is half pot, $75, but they both release. In this next hand, we have queen 9 of clubs in the hijack. The low jack limps, I make it $25. The button decides to make the call, and then the low jack tags along as well. So we're going to be going 3 ways to a flop against one player that's very active and one player that's very passive. The flop is king 10-4 with 2 clubs. Wow. So we have a flush draw and a straight draw. When action checks to me, I bet 2/3 pot, I bet $50. Now the button decides to raise to 200. Not really too worrisome so far, but action gets back to the player in the low jack, who is the definition of an OMC, and he now raises to 500. What in the world is going on? We raise queen 9 of clubs, and we literally get the most ideal board, but we're facing a raise and then another raise against an extremely tight player. Wow. Against sets, we still have outs, but against higher flush draws, we are pretty crushed. Our only live out here may really only be a jack, so even though the board looks so enticing, and once again, we raise queen 9 of clubs, get this exact board, but
Unfortunately, I think the best play here is actually to fold. The player on the button could easily have a higher flush draw, and the player on the low jack could definitely have 2 pairs or sets. So I just truthfully do not feel like I'm in that good of shape here. I don't know. I just decide to let this one go. This might be extremely nitty. Now that I'm thinking about it, this is probably the tightest fold I've ever made on this channel so far. But the button decides to fold as well. I do convince the low jack to show me his hand for the vlog, and he tables king 10 offsuit. So that was good for top 2, and knowing that exact hand, I would have been pretty happy to just go with it, but you know, cannot be results oriented. Maybe he was a bit looser than we expected. Oh well. Nice hand. In this hand, we have the button straddle on, and we look down at king 10 of hearts. There's 4 calls, and when action's on me, I think I could check here and just see it flop. But with all the dead money in the middle and in position, I think a raise here is a little bit better. I decide to make it 100, and we only see 1 call from the player in the small blind. So we're going to be going heads up to a flop in position. The flop is queen 9 deuce with 2 diamonds. So not really good for our exact hand. We have a gutter and an overcard. We still have the nut advantage. We're the only ones here that can really have pocket queens. Sure, he can have pocket 9s, but I think a lot of the time he'll have like 8s through 5s or hands of that nature. So I decide to throw out $75. Unfortunately for us, he puts in the annoying min raise to 150. He has around $600 in a stack, so sure, I could just fold this into any other sizing besides a min raise. I'd snap fold, but I think I'm just going to float one and hope to hit my out. Sure, this is probably pretty ambitious considering he only has like 600 or 650 behind, but that's what I do. I decide to make the call, and we're up to see the 9 of clubs on the turn, a pretty miserable card for a bunch of reasons. This time, he bets an amount that I don't even remember, and I just snap fold. That was the last hand of the night. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was a pretty short session. I think we were only here for around 2.5 hours. Can't complain though, around $900 profit in 2 hours. I'll definitely take it. Let's go hit the cage and get our money.
All right, guys, so we just got out of there. We were in the game for $1,000 even. Ended up getting out of there for $18.95. So we made, you know, a hair under $900, which is pretty good if you guys ask me. As for the hands, the only hand that I can think of off the top of my head that really like made the session was the 8-9 of diamonds hand. That massive overbet, I think that play was pretty genius. Obviously it worked out, so it was genius, but obviously that one was good. And then towards the end, that king 10 of hearts hand, we just absolutely whipped the flop and had like a weird min raise, and just, I think we had to see one more card to try to hit a gutter or the king. But, you know, is what it is. We ended up making money, so can't complain all that much. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you haven't already, guys, it'd mean the world if you hit that thumbs up button. And yeah, I'm looking forward to uploading more frequently. Just really like motivated to pump out these videos because 1, it's a lot of fun, and 2, just want to. So, all right, y'all, that's enough from me. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.